Hello, and welcome to the award-winning Bowie Youth Showcase. I am your host, Jazmyn Nicholson. We have another great show lined up for you today. We have our BYS News segment coming up first. We'll also be talking with the 2017 first place winners of the cybersecurity competition, the solar system competition, the Mars and Pathfinder's journey to Mars. Yes, they are back. Ava, Kiera, and Evan. They just returned from space camp at the U.S. Space Center in Huntsville, Alabama. And later on in the show, we'll have the Patriots technology participants of the Hackathon competition. Stay tuned. We will be right back with our news segment.
Good evening, and welcome to the Bowie Youth Showcase News. I'm Christian Jenkins.
I'm Justice Flora.
And I'm Julian Thomas. And we're delighted to come back as your host.
Today we're going to follow up on our summer camp story and how we personally disconnected from our electronics every Tuesday.
During today's news segment, we'll focus on back to school and how parents can partner with their students and schools for a safe, productive, and successful school year.
Then we'll end our segment with some exciting news about the upcoming solar eclipse on August the 21st. So sit back,
relax,
and we'll start the show. So Christian, I heard the new school year is coming around the corner, and there's a lot of people out there that want to know the basics of the things, the questions that they want to know for the new school year. So one common question is how much sleep you should get before the next school day when you go back to school.
Well, that's a great question, and your child should be getting at least 8 hours of sleep or more so that they can be energized and ready to go for the next day of school.
Good. I like that.
Now, Christian, a lot of people ask, well, throughout the school year, how do I stay organized?
Well, one way to stay organized during the school year is for parents to help their child with unpacking their backpacks and checking their backpacks to make sure that they have papers that they need and that they don't need during the school year. So old stuff that they can get rid of or put in a folder that's keep away in case they need it, but not that it's not mandatory in their binders.
Okay.
So, I have a question for you, Julian. So, how do parents ask for academic help for their child?
Well, if your child is struggling in a certain class or course, it's best to ask that child's teacher or a trusted tutor to help that child with the academic help that he or she needs. In a more serious matters, you can ask a guidance counselor for help.
That's great. Now, another serious question that should not be taken lightly is, what steps should a parent take if their child is being bullied?
Well, if a child is being bullied, hopefully that never happens to your child, tell a trusted counselor or adult as soon as possible. Try to ask the child about the bullying experience in great detail, and if needed, try to have a conversation or a conference with the bully's parents.
I like that.
That's great.
Good information, Julian. So, Christian, I have another question for you. So, when you're in school, you know you want your voice to be heard.
Yes.
But for the parents out there that want to make sure their child's voice is being heard in school, what do you have to say to them?
Well, parents should it's always good for a parent to come into the classroom and check up on their child. Personally, I have an experience where sometimes a parent would, just come in the classroom unexpectedly and just sit just to make sure that I'm doing good and make sure even if the teacher's doing good, 'cause sometimes the teacher may not be fair, or just to make sure that the teacher is getting what needs to be taught to the class. Or maybe if it's more serious, you can go talk to a guidance counselor. And another way is parents can be very active in their school's PTA or PTSA.
I like that. Thank you for that information.
So, Justice, I have a question for you now. What are the main ideas and objectives your child should be taking away from class each day?
As a parent, you want to make sure that your child is going to class every day, taking notes, studying, and if they don't understand certain topics that day, that they go back to the teacher and reread and re-ask questions to make sure they understand the topic they learned in class that day.
Sounds about good.
Okay. Now, Justice, I have two questions for you. The first question is, how can a student personalize their learning experience?
A student can personalize the learning experience. Personally, as an honor roll student, it is very important to personalize the learning experience because it allows you to take control of your grades, all of the assignments, and different activities that you have at school to make sure you're on top of it and make sure that you're ahead of the game during the school year.
Okay. Now, what can happen during a school emergency?
In a school emergency, a parent should immediately be notified by the school, and depending on the different types of emergency, the school will provide different information, like for different drills, for like a fire drill or earthquake or something like that. Once the parents are notified, they'll follow the procedures given by the school, and the students can always ask the teachers for a drill or a run through in the school day to make sure that they're safe and ready and protected for any emergency that can happen.
That's good to know.
Thank you. So I have a question for you, Julian. I'm heading into high school this year, and one thing I want to know is how can I find after-school programs to stay involved during the school year?
Well, I know my high school, which is Charles Herbert Flowers, you can learn about all of the after-school programs and clubs on the bulletin boards, which are posted around the schools. You can learn about them from other teachers or recommendations, and you can learn from your school's PTSA.
Oh, thank you.
So as we have concluded this segment of Back to School, we want to remind all of you that preparation is key as you head back to your school year this year.
When we return next month, we'll have exciting news to share about the solar eclipse happening on August the 21st.
That's right. Julian, Christian, and I leave on Friday to join the Inspire team and the NASA scientists in Clarksville, Tennessee for this once-in-a-lifetime event. Thanks for...
If you have a story about a youth in the community that we can spotlight, please email us at bysn.jcj@gmail.com.
Thanks for joining us on this week's Bowie Youth Showcase News. We are your hosts, Justice Flora,
Julian Thomas,
and Christian Jenkins. See you next time, and it's time to go back to school.
Hello and welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you, Justice, Julian, and Christian for the news segment. To add to that, I have a fantastic free community event for our audience. On Saturday, September 23rd from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., Evangel Assembly in Temple Hills will be hosting a community day. They'll be providing free bag lunches, book bags, school supplies, health screenings, free clothing for men, women, and children, and they are inviting you, your family, your friends, and the whole community. Sounds like a ton of fun and free stuff. You don't want to miss out on this free event. Evangel Assembly is located at 5900 Old Branch Avenue in Temple Hills. Also, for all you golf lovers, the 2017 Legacy Tournament is taking place on Saturday, September 16th. 12:30 p.m. shotgun, two-person scramble at the Marlton Golf Course in Upper Marlboro, Maryland at Midland Turn, 9413 Midland Turn. To register, call 202-365-8475. This event is sponsored by the Jimmy Garvin Foundation. Don't miss out. All right, let's move on with the show. Joining me now are Kiera Drew, Ava Valentine, and Evan Valentine, the 2017 winners of the cybersecurity competition and the solar system competition, are back to tell us all about their trip to U.S. Space Camp in Huntsville, Alabama. Welcome back. So, my first question is, why is it important to have a space camp? Ava, can I ask you first?
It's important because junior engineers and junior astronauts need a place to train, and space camp makes a amazing career field and learning field for astronauts and junior engineers.
Okay. Evan, what about you?
Well, I think people need space camp, so if they choose to be an astronaut, they will be ready.
Okay. And what about you, Kiera?
It's important for there to have a space camp so kids can learn more about space careers and they can learn how to do astronaut training.
Okay, so that being said, what kind of activities did you guys participate in at Space Camp? Ava?
We did rocket launching, which was a ton of fun to see our rockets go super high in the sky. And we also played trivia, and we did a scavenger hunt.
Okay. Evan?
Well, we did our simulators, which was like walking on the moon, and it was kind of like bungee jumping. So, and I learned that you had to jump for distance and not height.
Here.
Well, one of the activities that I liked the most was probably the missions because we got to like use a team effort to make a big goal accomplished.
Okay. So you guys had some teammates while you were there. Where were some of them from? Ava?
Some of my teammates were from Louisiana, Cincinnati, China, and Illinois.
What about you, Evan?
Some of my teammates were from Michigan, California, and Illinois.
So some of my teammates were from Germany, Atlanta, and Atlanta.
Okay. What was a typical day like in Space Camp for you guys?
Well, for me, I woke up, I brushed my teeth, I got changed. Well, I got changed before I brushed my teeth. And then I went to morning meds. Then we did first activity, second activity. Sometimes we did stretches, not all the time. And then we went to breakfast, and then we continued our day until bed. And then most people would call their parents because they got a little homesick, and they had not a payphone, but a phone that you could call them on.
Okay. Evan, what about you?
Well, first I wake up, brush my teeth, and then I go to get morning meds, and then we meet outside of our habitats. Then we go to first activity, second activity, and then breakfast. And then we continue our day like Gabe said. And then we have dinner.
Okay. Kiera?
So every day was on a schedule. So we woke up at about 7:30. We got ready for the day. We did our first activities, then we got breakfast. Then we did our afternoon activities, got lunch, and then we did like our night activities and got dinner. Like maybe we did like rocket launch or a mission or a simulator.
Okay. Okay. So what time was bed, everybody?
6. Well, not 6.
I'm gonna say that's really early.
9:45.
So you guys have spoken about the simulators a little bit. What was your personal favorite simulator, Ava?
My favorite was like what Evan said. Well, I have 2 favorites. One of them was the mission, which was a ton of fun, and the other one was the moon chair, which was a lot of fun also.
Okay, Evan?
My favorite simulator was the simulator where you got to do all the directions of when you're in space. You go forward, backwards, side to side, and rogue. And then on this simulator, you had to like go on this hovering vehicle, and then you had to press a button, and then you come back.
Okay. Kiera?
My favorite simulator was the hypership. So our team did two rides of the hypership. We did Red Baron and we did Destination Black Hole.
Okay. Tell me about the model rocket.
Well, for us, my team, we launched once, and then we rebuilt ours, and we launched again, but it rained, so we got to do something that not a lot of space groups did, which we shot them all at the same time for height, and they went all very far.
Wow. What about you, Evan?
Well, We got to launch our rockets, and then when they came down the second time, we got to keep them.
That's pretty cool.
Well, first for us, we made our rockets with the rocket kit, and then we went out to launch them. They didn't go as far, so then we rebuilt it and put a better engine in, and it went farther and better.
So you learned a little bit from that.
Yeah.
Okay. So the missions. What was your favorite position in your missions and why?
My favorite mission, my favorite part as in the mission was mission specialist, Mars Mission Specialist 1, which was you went in a chair and it was like the moon thing, but it was like a climbing wall, and then we got to float down and it was a lot of fun.
Okay.
My favorite mission was both of our missions. One of my favorites was the Mars Mission Specialist number 3, and the station engineer, and we got to do experiments, and I made slime.
Okay.
My favorite position was being the pilot because I got to control the ship, and that's where everyone went.
Okay. So it was fun to be in charge.
Yeah.
Okay. Favorite memory. Do we have a favorite memory, or was it just so awesome you can't pick?
It was very awesome, but my favorite memory would have to be when I went on the space shot. It was a lot of fun, but very scary. Since I had been at Six Flags during school, I rode a ride called the Voodoo Drop, and I thought that the space shot was going to be something like it because it was like built the same way, but it was a way more scarier and a lot more fun.
Oh, poor baby.
My favorite was all of the friends I got.
Okay. New friends. Always fun. Have you kept in touch? Good. Not yet? It's always time. What about you, Kiera?
My favorite memory was meeting like the first space camp graduate to go to space because you don't you don't see an astronaut every day, so that was pretty cool.
Okay. Is anybody interested in returning to space camp?
Most definitely, it was a ton of fun. I miss all of my friends. We had a great time at space camp, and I would definitely return.
I would like to return to space camp, and I would also like to do space camp robotics or aviation challenge.
I won't want to come back because I met a lot of friends and I had a lot of fun. Same with Evan, I might want to go into space camp again or space camp robotics.
Okay. Lastly, what would you say to your friends that may be thinking about joining Patriots Technology Center and getting the opportunity to go to space camp in Huntsville, Alabama?
I would say that they should definitely do it, especially if they're passionate about it, because I at first did not want to do it, but then I thought about it and I really like robotics and all the technical stuff, and we won 2 competitions and that was amazing, and I would say to just follow your dreams because anything can be accomplished.
Okay, that's great.
I would say to my friends that you should do it because it's a lot of fun and the missions are fun and you get to keep a lot of stuff.
Well, I'd tell all my friends to come because it's a great advantage and you get to meet a lot of people and do a lot of fun space-related things.
Okay, another question quickly. How did you like your trip to space camp? How was the travel? Like, how did you enjoy that?
Well, I had a ton of fun since it was like our first time on a plane in a long time, and it was amazing. The food was good, and the pilot was very nice, and we had an amazing safe flight and a safe flight back.
Well, my favorite part was the snacks that they gave, and on the flight back it was a bit scary because there was a lightning storm, but there was really cool views, like when we were on top of the clouds, it looked
see
cool.
The lightning. What about you?
Well, for me, it was my first plane trip, and so, like, on the plane, I was remembering everything my mom told me, like, make friends, do this, do that, and I was staying calm on the plane. Yeah, I think I had a good time.
What did you find most interesting? Give me one thing.
Well, most interesting for me was that we went to bed really early, since at home I don't go to bed at 9:45. That was very interesting, and dinner was very early also, so that was very interesting to me.
The thing that was interesting to me was that the slime that you make is really stiff, and then they said that you had to slam your slime against something to make it gooey.
And it worked. So you're going to teach me how to make some slime, right? We'll talk about it. What about you?
Well, what was most interesting to me was that I didn't know before that John Glenn was a part of either, I forgot which one, the Mercury and Gemini program in 1962.
Okay. Thank you guys for sharing, and congratulations on your trip to the U.S. Space Camp in Huntsville, Alabama. Keep up the good work. Check out this video with Evan at the camp.
Good job, search team. You're all qualified jetpack pilots. We're now moving to the rock field, ready to start the search. Remember to stay low and use your signal strength meters. When you get close to Spirit, a white compass marker will appear to guide you the rest of the way. Jet Blue and Jet Red are searching.
Joining us now are the hackathon participants, Michael Jason R. Mesina, 10th grade. He's the lead Academy of Health and Sciences at Prince George's Community College. Not with us are Jaden Smith, 10th grade, Bowie High School, Brandon McMillan, 12th grade, Charles Herbert Flowers High School, Ella Jag Vikers, 10th grade, CMIC South. Welcome to the show, Hackathoner. So, what was the hackathon, Michael?
Well, the hackathon consisted of two parts. One part was a hacking game that has questions about the field trips the students took, and the other half was a small seminar talking about some tools hackers use to get into our personal lives.
Okay. So how does the hackathon game show cybersecurity?
The hackathon game had computer aspects a hacker might use, such as payloads and exploits.
Okay. What was the most challenging part to accomplish while making the hackathon? If you could tell me a little about that.
Yeah, I think the most challenging part in making any program is making sure it works the way you want it to work. Making the program itself only took 3 days, but making sure it worked took almost a week.
Okay. So in that week, what exactly did you have to do? Like, explain to us a little bit.
Well, there were a lot of errors. One time, if you click a button, it makes your score go up infinitely high. So you don't want that unless you want everyone fighting who's first place if their scores just keep going higher and higher.
Why, can you explain to me why cybersecurity is important for those who may not know or understand or have any knowledge of it?
Well, learning cybersecurity is very important because the more you know about vulnerabilities, the easier it is for you to defend yourself against them.
Okay. So give me an example of a vulnerability.
Maybe you receive a suspicious email and you click on the link. And you click on the link. Little did you know, that link might have been malicious, and you just provide them with important data. So had you educated yourself or known about it, you wouldn't have clicked the link and just deleted it.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. Why did you participate in the hackathon?
Well, I always found computer science to be interesting. It's one of my hobbies.
Okay. What's the most important thing you learned throughout the process of making it and testing it and making sure everything was good with your software?
The most important thing was patience and some computer networking that had to be done, because I was new to computer networking and it was hard for me to learn how to make one computer talk to another.
Okay. So patience. That's something we could all use a little bit more of, I think. Why is cybersecurity so much talked about these days?
Well, I think it's because of recent outbreaks like WannaCrypt that paralyzed public transportation and hospital systems. And it's just the fear in the public.
So cybersecurity is more than just protecting your own identity. It can be much bigger in a more important scale, is what you're saying?
Yes, much bigger.
Okay. Do you think you'll pursue any of this as a career?
I might pursue a career in software development because I do find it interesting how computers work.
And lastly, where will you attend college?
I plan on attending the University of Maryland at College Park.
Okay. So how did it working with other children, teenagers from other schools? How did that work for you?
Well, at first I gave them small jobs just to know how much they understood of it. But so my two participants, Elijah Wickers and Jaden Smith, they had a good grasp on it. But the other two participants, Jonathan and Randon, they didn't quite have a good grip on it, so they were beta testers in the game.
Okay, so they got to play
while
while you guys did all the work.
Yes.
Okay. It's not a bad deal, I don't think. Anything else you would like to tell us about it?
I guess when I was making it, I didn't think the children would be into it, but once I put it up, it was interesting.
Okay. Thank you so much for explaining the hackathon to us. Once again, thank you all for coming on the show and talking to our youth. Thanks to our other guests, Ava, Kiera, and Evan, for sharing their experiences at the U.S. Space Camp in Huntsville, Alabama. We would also like to thank our audience for tuning in to another Bowie Youth Showcase. We are here to educate, motivate, inspire, and uplift our youth. Until next time, I'm Jazmyn Nicholson.
Your new birthday present. Are you ready?
Ta-da! Today, grown-ups will try anything to get kids more active outdoors. Good thing, since active kids have a better chance of building stronger bones and maintaining a healthy body weight. Here's an idea.
Let's go.
Get out there with them. A message from the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons and the Pediatric Orthopedic Society of North America, who remind you, for strong bones, activity runs in the family.
It's a teeter-totter.
A full life, measured in seats, starts with the right ones early on. Car crashes are the #1 killer of children 1 through 13. Learn how to prevent deaths and injuries by using the right car seat for your child's age and size.